Picture this. It is 2026. You are sitting at a red light on a Tuesday morning, coffee in the cup holder, phone on the dash. Everything is fine. Your foot is on the brake. The transmission is in drive. And then it starts. A tremor. A low, ugly rumble that crawls up through the floorboard, up through the steering column, and into both of your hands. The steering wheel starts vibrating. Not a little shimmy, not a gentle hum. It is shaking so hard that the reflection in your rearview mirror is blurring. You can feel it in your teeth. The whole cabin is alive with this violent rhythmic pulsing, and your brain immediately goes to the worst possible place. The engine is dying. Something catastrophic just failed inside the motor. Pistons are probably cracking. Cylinders are misfiring. This car is about to strand you in the middle of an intersection. Your knuckles go white on the wheel. Your heart rate spikes. And then, almost on instinct, you shift the gear selector from drive into neutral, and the shaking stops. Just like that. Gone. The engine is idling smooth as glass. No vibration, no rumble. Nothing. You shift back into drive, foot still on the brake, and the earthquake comes roaring back. Neutral again. Silence. Drive. Earthquake. Neutral. Silence. You do this 3 or 4 times in absolute disbelief, and then you drive straight to the nearest auto shop because you are convinced that something inside your engine is catastrophically broken. And that is the exact moment the Stealership diagnostic trap snaps shut on your wallet. Now, the dealerships making billions off your vibration panic want you to think a shaking steering wheel means internal engine death. It almost never does. What you just experienced is basic kinetic energy transfer and elastomer fatigue. But as always, I am sharing this old-school diagnostic test for educational purposes and as a matter of historical mechanical observation. This is how master mechanics have diagnosed this exact problem for decades, before the computerized diagnostic era turned every repair into an excuse to plug in a $1,000 scan tool. You need to understand the physics so that no one can ever use your fear against you again. So let me walk you through exactly what is happening inside your engine bay when that steering wheel turns into a jackhammer, because I promise you, what the shop is about to tell you is a lie designed to extract maximum profit from minimum knowledge. They are going to plug in a scan tool, they are going to furrow their brows at the screen, and they are going to tell you that your engine is suffering from a severe misfire condition. They will say the fuel injectors are hopelessly clogged, carbon fouled, or electronically dead. They will say your ignition coils have burned out and are failing to deliver spark to 1 or more cylinders. They will tell you the engine is limping along on fewer cylinders than it was designed to run on, and that if you do not act immediately, you risk destroying the catalytic converter, warping the cylinder head, or seizing the engine entirely. The quote will land somewhere between $800 and $1,200 for a full ignition coil set, a complete fuel injector replacement, and the labor to tear into the top of the engine. And every single word of that diagnosis is wrong. Here is what they will never tell you, because the truth does not generate revenue. Your engine is running perfectly. The combustion cycle is flawless. Every single cylinder is firing in sequence. Every fuel injector is spraying its precise mist of atomized gasoline into the intake port exactly as the engineers in Hiroshima or Nagoya or Sayama designed it to. The spark plugs are sparking, the coils are coiling. The pistons are compressing and detonating fuel and air with the same mechanical precision they have had since the day the car rolled off the assembly line. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the electronic or combustion systems of your vehicle. The problem is not electronic. The problem is not fuel delivery. The problem is not ignition. The problem is structural, and it costs about $40 to fix. Let me explain the engineering so you understand exactly why the Stealership diagnosis is not just wrong, but is a calculated, deliberate misrepresentation of basic physics. Your engine is a heavy piece of cast iron or aluminum. Depending on whether you are driving a 4-cylinder Civic or a 6-cylinder Camry or a 4-cylinder Mazda 3 or a turbocharged Subaru Boxer, that engine block weighs somewhere between 250 and 400 pounds. It is a massive, dense chunk of metal that is designed to contain thousands of controlled explosions per minute. Every single one of those explosions generates force, rotational force, vibrational force, kinetic energy that radiates outward from the crankshaft in every direction. Now here is the critical question. How does a 300-pound block of vibrating steel sit inside your engine bay without shaking the entire car apart? The answer is engine mounts. And this is where the Japanese engineers were decades ahead of the Western parts replacement industry. If you are tired of auto shops trying to sell you brand new fuel injectors when your car just needs a $40 rubber block, Hit the like button right now and help me push this video past the algorithm suppression so that more people can see it before their next oil change appointment turns into a $1,200 ignition system replacement they never needed. An engine mount is an elegantly simple device. At its core, it is a block of specially formulated industrial rubber, sometimes filled with hydraulic fluid, that is sandwiched between two metal brackets. One bracket bolts to the engine block. The other bracket bolts to the subframe or the chassis of the car. The rubber sits in between and does one job. It absorbs vibration. That is it. That is the entire function. The rubber acts as a buffer, a shock absorber, a dampener that takes the thousands of tiny vibrations being generated by the spinning crankshaft and the firing pistons and it swallows them. It eats them alive. The vibrations enter the rubber and they die there. They never reach the chassis, they never reach the steering column, they never reach your hands. When those mounts are healthy, you can sit at a red light and drive with your hands on the wheel, and you would never know there are 4,000 explosions per minute happening 2 feet in front of you. The isolation is that complete. Now here is where time and physics conspire against you. Rubber is an elastomer. That means it is a polymer with elastic properties. It stretches, it compresses, it flexes, and it returns to its original shape. But it does not do this forever. Every single flex cycle degrades the molecular structure of the rubber. Heat accelerates this degradation dramatically. And where does an engine mount live? It lives bolted directly to an engine that operates at 200 degrees Fahrenheit or higher for hours at a time, day after day, year after year. The rubber is being slow cooked. It is being chemically aged by heat, by ozone exposure, by the petroleum products that inevitably drip onto it from above. Over 70,000, 80,000, 100,000 miles, the rubber begins to crack. It begins to lose its elasticity. It hardens in some spots and crumbles in others. And eventually, a section tears completely. When that tear opens up, the hydraulic fluid inside the mount, if it is a fluid-filled design, drains out, and now you have lost your dampening. You have lost your isolation layer. What you have left is metal sitting on metal. The steel bracket of the engine is now in direct contact with the steel subframe of the car. And this is where the physics lesson gets violent. When the engine is running and the transmission is in neutral, the engine is spinning freely. There is no load on it. The crankshaft is turning, but it is not connected to anything that resists its rotation. The vibrations are minimal. They are gentle, low-amplitude oscillations that even a damaged mount can partially absorb. This is why the shaking stops when you shift to neutral. But when you shift into drive, everything changes. The transmission engages. The torque converter locks up. The engine is now mechanically connected to the drivetrain. It is pushing against the resistance of the transmission, the drive shaft, the differential, the axles, the tires gripping the road, and the brake pads clamping the rotors because your foot is on the brake. The engine is under load. It is working hard. And working hard means more vibration, dramatically more vibration. Those vibrations now have no rubber to die in. They travel through the bare metal contact point, into the subframe, up through the steering rack, up through the steering column, and directly into your hands. That is your earthquake. That is your steering wheel blur. That is the symptom that the Stealership is about to misdiagnose as a catastrophic engine misfire, because a misfire diagnosis means ignition coils at $120 each, fuel injectors at $80 each, 2 hours of diagnostic labor at $150 an hour, and a total bill that makes their quarterly revenue target. Tell me in the comments right now if your car shakes violently at red lights when the transmission is in drive and what a dealership tried to charge you to fix it. I want to hear those numbers. I want to see how widespread this diagnostic fraud is in 2026 because I promise you it has gotten worse, not better. Now let me give you the weapon. Let me give you the diagnostic technique that master Japanese mechanics have used for decades to expose this exact scam in under 10 seconds without a single wrench, without a scan tool, without removing a single bolt. It is called the brake torque test. And the Stealership parts counter does not want you to know it exists because it makes their entire ignition system diagnosis irrelevant. But before I walk you through the procedure, I need to stop and give you the most important safety warning I have ever given on this channel. And I need you to listen to every single word, because this test involves a running engine with the transmission engaged, and if you do not follow these safety rules to the letter, you can be seriously injured or killed. Rule number 1. The vehicle must be parked on a flat, level surface, not a hill, not a slope, not a driveway with any kind of grade. Flat, level, period. Rule number 2. The emergency brake must be fully engaged before you begin. Pull it up or push it down or press the electronic parking brake button, whatever your vehicle uses, and confirm it is locked. Rule number 3. Absolutely no one can stand in front of the vehicle during this test. No one. Not your friend, not your neighbor, not your kid, not you, nobody. The engine is going to be under power with the transmission and drive. If the brake fails, or if you do not apply enough pedal pressure, that car will lunge forward. If a human being is standing in front of it, the result is catastrophic and irreversible. Clear the area in front of the car completely before you even start the engine. Rule number 4. When you press the brake pedal, you press it with every ounce of force your left leg can generate. Maximum pressure. You are not gently resting your foot on the brake. You are trying to push the pedal through the floor. The car must not move. Not an inch, not a centimeter. Now, here is the procedure. You park the car on a flat surface. You engage the emergency brake. You make absolutely certain no one is anywhere near the front of the vehicle. You open the hood and prop it up so you have a clear view of the engine from the driver's seat or from the side. You get in the driver's seat, you start the engine, you let it idle for a moment. You put the transmission in drive. You place your left foot on the brake pedal and you crush it down with maximum force. Now here is the moment of truth. With your left foot absolutely crushing that brake pedal into the floor, you use your right foot to quickly tap the gas pedal. Not floor it, not hold it down. A quick, sharp blip, a tap, maybe a quarter second of throttle, and you watch the engine. If your engine mounts are healthy, the engine will strain slightly, but stay put. The rubber will absorb the torque pulse, and the engine block will barely move. If your engine mounts are destroyed, what happens next will shock you. The entire engine block will physically jump upward inside the engine bay. It will visibly lift, several inches in some cases. You will see the massive 300-pound chunk of iron and aluminum lurch violently against the broken mount, rotate on its axis and slam back down. It is terrifying to watch. It is dramatic. And it is absolute, undeniable, visual proof that the problem is a $40 rubber mount and not a $1,200 ignition system overhaul. The engine jumped because there is nothing holding it down. The rubber is gone. The isolation is gone. Metal is sitting on metal, and when torque is applied, the engine has nowhere to go but up. That is the brake torque test. That is the $40 truth that destroys a $1,000 lie. A master mechanic trick that has been documented in shop manuals and technical training programs for longer than most dealership service advisors have been alive. And the only reason you have never heard of it is because it eliminates the most profitable misdiagnosis in the modern automotive service industry. Now let me be absolutely clear one more time, because your safety matters more than any amount of money you save on car repairs. When you perform this test, the vehicle must be on a flat surface with the emergency brake engaged. Your left foot must be applying maximum crushing force to the brake pedal at all times. You only tap the gas. A quick blip, nothing more. And absolutely no human being can be positioned in front of that vehicle under any circumstances. This test is an educational observation technique passed down through generations of diagnostic training. It is not a stunt, it is not a game. Respect the forces involved and you will have your answer in 10 seconds. A torn engine mount is one of the most common failures on high-mileage Japanese vehicles. Hondas, Toyotas, Nissans, Mazdas, Subarus, all of them. The rubber degrades. It is not a defect. It is the natural end of life for an elastomer component that has been heat cycled tens of thousands of times. The replacement mount itself costs between $30 and $60 for most applications. The labor to install it, if you cannot do it yourself, is usually between $100 and $200 depending on which mount has failed and how accessible it is. Compare that to the $1,200 ignition system replacement that the Stealership quoted you for a problem that never existed inside your engine. Subscribe and hit the bell before the ignition parts lobby gets this visual diagnostic trick banned from the internet, because every single time I post one of these videos exposing a common Stealership scam, the view counts get mysteriously throttled within 48 hours. Make sure you are following my secondary channel linked in the featured section below this video so that if this channel ever gets hit, you still have access to every single diagnostic test and dollar-saving technique we have built together. We are building the largest free automotive education archive on the internet, and they hate it because informed consumers do not pay $1,200 for a $40 repair. Share this video with anyone you know who has a car that shakes at red lights. You might save them $1,000 today. I will see you in the next